This is Commission President Toshiko Hasagawa convening the regular meeting of July 8, 2025. The time is 12:07 p.m. We're meeting in person today at the Port of Seattle headquarters building in Commission chambers, as well as virtually on Microsoft Teams. Clerk Hart, please call the roll of all the commissioners in attendance.
Thank you. Beginning with Commissioner Calkins.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Cho.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Felleman will be here shortly, I understand. Commissioner Hasagawa.
Present.
Thank you. And Commissioner Mohammed.
Present.
Thank you very much. We do have a quorum established.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Clerk Hart. Well, I'd like to start today's meeting by saying that we are honored to have in attendance 3 distinguished professors from Foreign Trade University in Hanoi, Vietnam. They are here in Seattle and the United States to evaluate factors driving the restructuring of global supply chains and Vietnam's adaptation strategies. Our staff met with them this morning to discuss these issues as well as some others. As we all know, Vietnam is a key trade partner for the Port of Seattle, as well as our business venture, the Northwest Seaport Alliance, and as well for the entire Puget Sound region. Vietnam is the second largest importer through the Northwest Seaport Alliance and one of the largest destinations for air cargo from SEA Airport. Please note for the record, we've been joined by Commissioner Elman. So if my colleagues could just indulge me this moment to recognize Dr. Bin Thi Nguyen, Dr. Yen Thi Nguyen, and Ms. Chang Van Nguyen. Please stand. Welcome. They are all experts leading in their fields, conducting important research in supply chains and logistics, and readying the next generation of talent in Vietnam. Our future is in such good hands with you all. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
It's very special. Now, a few housekeeping items before we begin for everyone in the meeting room. Pretty please turn your cell phones to silent. For anyone participating in Microsoft Teams, go ahead and mute your speakers. If you're not actively speaking or presenting, keep your cameras off unless you're a commissioner or a member of the public actively presenting or addressing the commission. And members of the public addressing the commission during public comment can turn your cameras on and off when your name is called to speak, and then back off again once you're done making your remarks. For anyone at the dais, please turn off computer speakers and silence your devices. Please also remember to address your request to speak through the chair and wait to speak until you've been recognized. You'll turn your microphones on and off as needed. All of the items noted here will ensure a smoother meeting. Thank you. All of our votes today will be taken by the roll call method or by general consent, so it's clear for anyone participating virtually how votes are cast. Commissioners will say aye or nay when your name's called. I'd like to open with an acknowledgement that we're meeting on the ancestral lands and the waters of the Coast Salish people, with whom we share the commitment to steward these natural resources for ourselves and for future generations. The meeting is being digitally recorded and may be viewed or heard at any time on the Port's website and may be rebroadcast by King County Television. So at this time, I invite you all to please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so the first item of business today is the approval of the agenda. As a reminder, if a commissioner wishes to make a general comment for or against an item on the consent agenda, it's not necessary to pull that item for separate discussion. Rather, a commissioner may offer general supporting or opposing comments later in this meeting once we get to that part of the agenda. However, it is appropriate if a commissioner wants to ask questions of staff or wishes to have a dialogue on a consent agenda item to request that the item be pulled for separate discussion at this time. With that said, commissioners, are there any items that you'd like to pull from the consent agenda or any additional motions to rearrange the orders of the day? Seeing none, commissioners, the question is upon approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Fallman and seconded by Commissioner Calkins. Is there any objection to approval of the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is now approved. Moving swiftly forward, next on our agenda is the Executive Director's report, and we will turn it over to Deputy Executive Director Goon for her report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm covering for Executive Director Metric today while he participates in a board retreat. I would like to begin my remarks by thanking all of the employees that worked over the busy Independence Day weekend to keep our maritime and aviation gateways operating safely and efficiently. Over the last several weeks, our airport has seen historic levels of activity, setting multiple single-day records across key operational areas. These milestones reflect the hard work and coordination across our entire airport team. I'd like to share a few highlights. On June 28th, 2025, SCA welcomed a record 10,965 international arriving passengers, setting a new benchmark for global gateway travel. June 30th, 2025, our rental car operators had their busiest single day ever and hit a new high, transporting 23,144 passengers to and from the rental car facility. On Sunday, July 6th, was the sixth busiest day in our airport's history, so not quite a record, but definitely testing everyone's working in operations. Thank you to all our employees and partners who worked over the holiday weekend to keep our airport moving. These milestones underscore the growing demand at SCA and the critical importance of seamless, customer-focused operations. Thank you to everyone from frontline teams to behind-the-scenes planners who make these achievements possible. And things are moving on the maritime side as well. The 2025 cruise season is now 40% of the way done, and later in today's meeting, we will request your authorization to help advance shore power to 2 of our facilities. Preparations are also underway for Seafair celebrations. The port is proud to be a community sponsor of this year's celebration. The Torchlight Parade will take a new route this year along the Seattle waterfront with front row seats at Pier 69. My appreciation goes out to all those working on these plans. And I'm sure you have observed the ongoing construction near Pier 69 related to the City of Seattle's Alaskan Way bike lane project and philanthropy-funded Elliott Bay Connection project. The construction impacts have been challenging to navigate. This week we are sharing with our community an upcoming closure of the West Thomas Street pedestrian and bicycle overpass into Myrtle Edwards Park and the Elliott Bay Trail. The overpass will close for approximately 7 weeks beginning July 21st, so crews can safely complete planned improvements, including a new ADA accessible connection from the overpass to the Myrtle Edwards and Centennial Park Trail system. Alternative access will be available from the park's south entrance via Broad Street, and pedestrian and bicyclists travel through the parks maintained on a temporary multi-use trail, following posted signs. Finally, I want to acknowledge that the port continues to monitor and respond to constantly evolving policy landscape at the federal level, as well as constant challenges in port-related industry. Last week, our commission commented on congressional adoption of the President Trump's new tax and spend policy. We do have concerns about losing momentum on some of our key decarbonization priorities where federal government can make critical contributions. Despite this development, we remain focused on our goals and objectives. Many of our customers and partners operate globally, and they still want to see the Port of Seattle lead in transition to clean fuels, which we intend to do. We will continue to monitor the impact of this legislation's implementation. I also wanted to note that you may have seen recent news reports regarding cyber criminals targeting the aviation industry. As we are all well aware, industries are under near constant attack, and we must remain vigilant. I appreciate our professional IT and information security teams monitoring these situations and sharing information with port employees, encouraging all of us to be on high alert and take extra precautions. Moving to today's commission meeting, I would like to highlight a few items. On our consent agenda, we will seek your adoption of a revised resolution updating the goals for our diversity contracting program. For new business, we will seek additional funding to replace and upgrade our HVAC system at the airport. Finally, the marquee item for our meeting today is our 2026 budget development briefing. Executive Director Metrick issued his budget guidance to staff last week, and I will repeat some of that here today. We face significant economic and political uncertainty. Economic growth and federal funding are both expected to slow in 2025 and 2026. The risk of high inflation due to tariff remains, while the port is already seeing some softening of revenue growth. Our challenge is to avoid overextending the port while continuing to invest and prepare for the future. We are directing a conservative budget approach for the 2026 budget development that better aligns expenses to revenue and funding capacity for the future. This is a familiar theme in other local and state governments. A number of organizations are reducing cost and even reducing their labor forces. The port is not currently planning for layoffs or benefit reductions. However, we do need to work to limit the port's growth in new hires and non-payroll costs. Payroll, which comprises of salaries and benefits, accounts for over 60% of the port's operating and maintenance expenses. Controlling these costs is key to overall cost control. Of the non-payroll expenses, the most expensive is outside services, accounting for an additional 25%. We will continue working with port leaders and our commission to prioritize work and to think more creatively about achieving the highest priority goals under today's conditions. We know our services are urgently needed and do not shy away from the ambitions of our future. We are confident that managing expense growth for a few years puts the port in a strong position to continue delivering for the region. Commissioners, that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Goon. And that brings us to our committee reports. Erica Chung, our strategic advisor, will provide the report.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Commissioners, and Deputy Director Goon. I have two short committee reports for you today. On Monday, June 23rd, Commissioners Calkins and Fellman participated in the Port-wide Arts and Culture Board meeting. This was a special meeting for the purpose of electing a new member to the board, and members elected Emily Tanner McLean to the board. Then on June 26th, Commissioners Fellman and Cho convened the Aviation Committee. Commissioners received a comprehensive update on the port's preparation for FIFA World Cup 2026, including infrastructure improvements, fan activities, security planning, volunteer coordination, and regional branding opportunities. Commissioner asked questions about federal and state support of the festivities and gave guidance on coordination with event stakeholders. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Erica about committee reports? Seeing none, we can move forward. And that brings us to public comment. The Port Commission welcomes public comment as an important part of the public process. Comments are received and considered by the Commission in its deliberations. Before we take public comment, we're going to review our rules for in-person and virtual public comment. Clerk Hart, please play the roll.
The Port of Seattle Commission welcomes you to our meeting today. As noted, public comment is an important part of the public process, and the Port of Seattle Commission thanks you for joining us. Before proceeding, we will overview the rules governing public comment for your general information. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak unless otherwise revised by the presiding officer for the purposes of meeting efficiency, and the speaker shall keep their remarks within the allotted time provided. A timer will appear on the screen, and a buzzer will sound at the end of the speaker's comment period. The Commission accepts comments on items appearing on its agenda and items related to the conduct of port business. The presiding officer will ask speakers to limit their comments to these topics. This rule applies to both introductory and concluding remarks. Disruptions of Commission public meetings are prohibited. General disruptions include, but are not limited to, the following: speaking before being recognized by the presiding officer, holding or placing banners and signs in the meeting room in a way that endangers others or obstructs the flow of people or view of others at the meeting, intentionally disrupting, disturbing, or otherwise impeding attendance or participation at a meeting, refusing to follow the direction of the presiding officer or security personnel, attempting to use the comment time for purposeful delay without conveying a discernible message, using the comment period to assist in a campaign for election of any person to any office or for the promotion of or opposition to any ballot proposition except when addressing action being taken by the Commission on a ballot proposition appearing on its agenda, directing public comments to the audience, engaging in abusive or harassing behavior, including but not limited to derogatory remarks based on age, race, color, national origin, ancestry, religion, disability, pregnancy, sex, gender, sexual orientation, transgender status, marital status, or any other category protected by law, the use of obscene or profane language and gestures, assaults or other threatening behavior, and sexual misconduct or sexual harassment. For safety purposes, individuals are asked not to physically approach commissioners or staff at the meeting table during the meeting. Individuals may provide written public comment before or after the meeting, and in addition, speakers may offer written materials to the commission clerk for distribution during their testimony to the commission. A detailed list of the public comment rules is available through the commission clerk. If a meeting is disrupted by an individual in attendance in the meeting room or by an individual providing public comment in person or virtually, the port will impose progressive consequences that may result in exclusion from future meetings. Written materials provided to the clerk will be included in today's meeting record. The clerk has a list of those prepared to speak. When your name is called, please come to the testimony table or unmute yourself if joining virtually. Repeat your name for the record and state your topic related to an item on the agenda or related to the conduct of port business. For those joining virtually, when you have concluded your remarks, please turn off your camera and mute your microphone. Our public comment period will now commence. Thank you again for joining us today.
With that, Clerk Hart, would you mind taking us through those who have signed up to provide public comment in advance who are in person in the room?
Thank you, Madam Commission President, members of the Commission. We do not have any virtual signups today, so we will just call from the list.
Acknowledged.
Thank you. Beginning with Sandy Olson. Hi, Sandy. Please go ahead and restate your name for the record and your agenda item or topic related to the conduct of port business, please. And the mic is on.
Thank you. It's Sandy Olson from Carnival Corporation, and I'm speaking about cruising. So thank you for Commissioners for the opportunity to comment. With another successful cruise season well underway, I wanted to share some 2025 milestones that underscores Carnival Corporation and its cruise lines' commitment to this city. So firstly, in May, Carnival Cruise Lines celebrated 15 years of sailing from Seattle with a donation to Fair Start to provide 800 food vouchers for families. On June 12, our British luxury cruise line Cunard celebrated its inaugural Alaska season, with Queen Elizabeth making the first of 12 visits to Seattle. And thank you, Commissioner Cho, for attending the plaque exchange. And I'm pleased to say that Cunard will be serving wines from Elsom Cellars, a small woman-led winery just 3.5 miles from here. And I'll unashamedly put in a plug for its owner, Jodie Elsom, and encourage you to stop by her tasting room. But better yet, perhaps I could suggest you book a cruise on Queen Elizabeth to sample her wine instead. So Carnival Corporation has also marked 20 years of using shore power in Seattle. On June 18, 2005, which feels like a lifetime ago, Diamond Princess became the first ship to connect to shore power here. And at that time, you might recall that Seattle was only the second place in the world to have shore power. And that was after Alaska. So with the support of the port, Carnival Corporation pioneered and invested in technology that's now embraced all over the world. And I'm proud to confirm that our hometown cruise line, Holland America Line, is in the planning phase for a biofuel demonstration project this season in partnership with the port as part of our berthing agreement. We're working together with the port to learn more about the availability, delivery and operation of these fuels in the Pacific Northwest. I'm happy to brief you more on that another time. And Holland America Line continues to work with many well-known local businesses in its provisioning of ships, but it also works to inspire young people. And in May, Holland America Line welcomed students from Seattle's Maritime High School on board to meet the captains behind the scenes. And a big shout out to students from Odyssey Middle School who've raised money and donated books that Holland America will be transporting to a remote area in the Philippines on their behalf. Thank you to the port staff, to Mr. Metrick and all port staff.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carl Ryan. Carl, please go ahead and repeat your name for the record and your agenda item or topic related to the conduct of port business, please.
Thank you. My name is Carl Ryan, and I'm here for Pier 86 with the labor dispute we have. Thank you, Madam President and distinguished commissioners.
First of all,
I'm speaking regarding the LDC decision to dismiss experienced union electricians and replace them with underqualified electricians to be employed by the ILWU. The Longshore Union has aggressively sought to take these jobs for a number of years, for example, in an unannounced informal strike in which one of their demands was my job. A mob picketing the gate vandalized my car by breaking my side mirrors as I attempted to leave work. I estimate there were no less than 15 people striking my car on camera and in sight of the facility superintendent. I filed a police report. Instead of running us off the job through intimidation, they wished to run us off the job through an unsustainable contract. The Longshore Union hopes to utilize unemployed IBEW electricians whose training has been paid for by IBEW dues, not Longshore dues. The ILWU is not certified to train or offer necessary continuing education credits. The long-term result will be a competing electrical union in which one union relies on the other for both manpower and training. LDC is offering $25 an hour below prevailing wage. This is so uncompetitive that after 3 years and a 20% unemployment rate currently for local 46 electricians, only 4 out of 6 electricians have been found to man this job. Clearly, this is not a functional business model. I belong to an electrical company that has served this site for 25 years. The team's combined years of experience is 105 years. The experience at this facility is 49 years. The replacement team has a few years of electrical experience and 0 years in an industrial facility. The importance of experienced talent can't be overestimated. OSHA reported that from 1976 to 2008, there have been 503 explosions in U.S. grain elevators, resulting in 677 injuries and 184 fatalities. Magnifying the risk for cheap labor and endangering the community
You
is
have an
unacceptable.
additional 10 seconds because it took you some time to get started, so please continue.
Thank you, ma'am. Qualified and highly experienced Local 46 electricians should continue servicing this facility. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Madam Commission President, our next speaker is Brent Lawson. Brent, please go ahead and repeat your name for the record and your agenda item or topic related to the conduct of port business, please.
hi, my name is Brent Lawson. I'm speaking on Pier 86 as well. I'm an 01 electrician with the IBW Local 46 with 25 years experience, and I just want you guys to at least come to the table and talk to us about the possibilities of the dangers at this grain facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Xavier Lang, Washington. And Xavier, please go ahead and repeat your name for the record and your agenda item or topic related to the conduct of port business, please.
Hey, my name is Xavier Lang, Washington. Sorry, I just had my wisdom teeth pulled out. I'm also speaking about Pier 86. I'm a current employee leaving the maintenance department at Louis Dreyfus, Pier 86. As a union electrician, I've always taken pride in my work and in my work culture. The backdoor deal that Louis Dreyfus has made with the Longshore is not a new attempt to grab jobs by ILWU all over the country, and they almost never work out long term. The reason that the IBEW came here is that there was a fire at the plant caused by unqualified workers doing electrical work. Luckily, it was a fire and not a catastrophe, as we all know these grain facilities can be. What's happening now is highly unsafe, corporately money-motivated, and an attack on my union. I hope everyone in this room considers these dangers as we let these industrial union jobs go to unqualified workers at an embarrassing wage for an industrial electrician in the Pacific Northwest, in one of the most heavily populated and trafficked areas in the city. Respectfully, my name is Xavier Lang, Washington. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Luke Anderson. Luke, please go ahead and repeat your name for the record and your agenda item topic related to the conduct of port business, please.
Luke Anderson with IBW 46, and I'm here to speak on the same issue, Pier 86. The issue before us, as the previous speakers has detailed, is a serious issue of labor, and it's also one about safety, and that's what I want to mention. I have a reminder of how complacency can bite you. across 4 of my fingers here. About 15 years ago, I almost lost the function of my right hand. It wasn't any one thing. It was accumulation of a lot of small things. And the training and experience that the IBW provides is what prevents incidents like what we fear may happen at a grain terminal. So I don't need to expound on the catastrophic results of electrical incidents or grain silo explosions. I think we can all look that up on our own. But safety is a chief issue, and I think it's one we need to take very seriously. And IBEW 46 hands are the best way to make sure everyone is safe, including the community around Pier 86. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tori Westman, I believe. And Tori, I apologize if I pronounced your last name incorrectly.
No worries. Tori Westman speaking on the Pier 86 labor dispute. I'm a journey level electrician with IBW Local 46. So the port is allowing Terminal 86, one of the most hazardous facilities in the region, to remove trained, experienced electricians and replace them with unqualified workers. This is a high voltage terminal with highly flammable material near businesses and residences. It really demands experience and care, not shortcuts. It's also unjust to push out qualified workers, many with years of service, for cheaper labor. Like, why is the port putting workers and the public at risk? So I urge you to stop this decision, keep experienced electricians on the job, protect safety, protect standards, and do the right by working people here in Seattle. Thank you for your time, and please do the right thing.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Misty Wheeler. Misty, please go ahead and repeat your name for the record.
Thank you. Misty Wheeler. So I'm a IBW Local 46 electrician. I also am on staff at Local 46 and support I'm on the PLA team, so I support our members here that work at this terminal. So I think it's really important to understand like the hazard that this facility, the hazard that excuse me, the hazard of this facility, the potential hazard. So I remember coming up through my apprenticeship that they talked about an arc flash in like a commercial 480 panel, and that if there was an arc flash between phases, it could be literally the explosion would be hotter than the surface of the sun. So this is a 18,800 volt facility in an industrial setting. It's class 2 Div 2, which means that it's explosive dust from the grains. Also, the port's own study shows that the switchgear at this facility is at end of life and needs to be upgraded. So it really does take a team of maintenance electricians with a lot of experience to make sure that this facility is maintained in a safe manner until that situation is updated. So I think it's really important. There's a lot of businesses, including the Carnival Cruises and a lot of homes in that area that would be in a potential known blast zone for a facility like that. And I think it would be smart of the commissioners to reconsider their position on this and also look at what the RCW and WACs are for what it takes to employ electricians at the facility as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nicole Grant. Please go ahead and repeat your name for the record, Nicole.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nicole Grant. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm a member of IBEW Local 46. I'm a licensed electrician, and I'm our Director of Government Affairs. And I want to start by saying thank you and acknowledging item 8F on the consent agenda. We're here today because the port is a partner, and we can bargain successfully together, and we can have hard conversations openly. I know I can't say it better than any of my union family that works down on the port. about what they just said about the situation at Terminal 86. But what I can say from a 30,000-foot view is that this is a extremely unusual and very bad situation. There are, as you can see, many very experienced people who have been in this Class 2, Division 2 hazardous location as described in the National Electric Code, and who have worked together as a team and taught the new people in a hands-on way as they've come on. And to have just overnight every single person removed from that maintenance crew and replaced with somebody who has never done it before just doesn't make sense. It's why our union filed a grievance that was dismissed utterly. And I just want to say, I feel like the tone that we got was, that we're doing it wrong, but we're sounding the alarm. This is so serious for the people that work there, for the people that work around there, for the World Cup coming to Seattle. It has to be taken care of. And that's why we're all here today, is to bring people to the table and figure out a solution. Thanks.
Thank you.
And our final speaker signed up today is Sean Bagsby.
Welcome, Sean.
And Sean, if you can go ahead and repeat your name for the record.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Bagsby. I use he and him pronouns, and I am the business manager, financial secretary, or the principal officer for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. It is my honor to be here before you. Thank you for your time. And most importantly, thank you for all of our distinguished workers that have taken time away from their day to be here for this difficult topic and conversation. IBW Local 46 has only been in existence for 110 years. The IBW as an international union has only been in existence for 135 plus years. Our entire existence is based upon safety and training of the world's finest electrical workers. We are not the only electrical union on the earth, but we are by far the largest and strongest because safety is paramount. Everything is based on safety. I've been a member for 25 years, and I'm a journey-level electrician and proud of the 5-year apprenticeship and the thousands and thousands of hours that I put into training and performing this work. All of my colleagues, all of our members have gone above and beyond and have stated the case. All of you have seen the flyer that has been circulated, and it's unfortunate that this public safety announcement and alert has to be put out and shared with all of the workers and the public and the community that are around this terminal, this ticking time bomb, which is extremely difficult to deal with. These members have families. They have the personal and professional commitments. They have people that love them, and they sacrifice themselves going to perform this work, this service to the community, the service to the port. And to have them removed and replaced by unqualified individuals is a travesty. So the problem is clear. The solution is also clear. The most important A word that we talk about within the union is accountability. And I hold myself accountable and all of them accountable. And now it's accountability to our partners at the port, the elected leaders, as I am an elected leader as well, to correct this issue. We are prepared to do so, and this must change. A solution must be reached as soon as possible because this cannot continue. You have the power to make the difference, and it's not an ask, it's a demand that we need to exercise that power for the safety of all the communities that are in the blast zone of the grain terminal. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Is there anybody who did not sign up in advance but is here in the room personally that would like to address the commission? Is there anybody who did not sign up in advance but is here virtually that would like to address the commission? Hearing none, Clerk Hart, will you please give us a synopsis of the written comment that's been submitted for this meeting?
Thank you, Madam Commission President. We do not have any written comments received today.
Hearing no further testimony, we will move on in the agenda, bringing us to the consent agenda. One moment, please. So items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be adopted by one motion. Items removed from the consent agenda will be considered separately immediately after adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve items on the consent agenda covering items 8A through 8H.
So moved. Second.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Cho and seconded by Commissioner Felleman. Commissioners, please say aye or nay when your name is called for approval of the consent agenda.
Beginning with Commissioner Calkins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Cho.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Felleman.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Aye.
Thank you, and Commissioner Hasagawa.
Aye.
Thank you. 5 ayes, 0 nays for this item.
Thank you, Clerk Hart. The motion carries unanimously, and I would like to congratulate our brothers and sisters and siblings in IBEW for the passage of the collective bargaining agreement. Thank you very much for your time and your public comment today. You're welcome to stick around. Moving forward, we have one new business item. Clerk Hart, please read the item into the record, and Deputy Executive Director Goon will introduce it.
Thank you. This is agenda item 10A, authorization for the executive director to advertise and execute a general contractor, construction manager, construction contract, and authorize pre-construction services for Concourse HVAC infrastructure renewal replacement project at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport in the requested amount of $11 million for a total project authorization of $18,250,000.
Commissioners, our Concourse HVAC Infrastructure Renewal and Replacement Program, otherwise known as CHIRP, will focus on existing HVAC and smoke control systems within Concourse B, C, and D, as well as replacement or refurbishment of rooftop air handling equipment. The last major renovation to Concourse B, C, and D were in 1990. This project is necessary to correct code deficiencies. The project will go through the Sustainable Evaluation Framework and will go before the Commission Sustainability, Environmental, and Climate Committee with recommendations at 30% design. Work has advanced on the project definition document that you authorized in 2023, so the team is back before you today to request funds to bring a general contractor, construction manager on board to get us to the next milestone. With us today is Trevor Entman, Infrastructure Capital Program Leader, Aviation Project Management Group, and Joe Cook? Joe Cook? Okay, great. Aviation Facilities Discipline Manager. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. Deputy Executive Director Goon. My name is Trevor Entman. I'm the Infrastructure Program Leader for the Aviation Project Management Group. Presenting with me today is Joe Cook and Paula Munter. We have a total of 12 slides to share with you today. We'll briefly cover the purpose of the Concourse HVAC Infrastructure Renewal and Replacement Project, justification and high-level project scope, preliminary budget and schedule, as well as a few of the project risks. I'll hand it over to Joe.
Okay, pardon my voice here, but good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Joe Cook. I'm our Mechanical Engineering Manager down at the SAA Airport. And in that role, I deal with all of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, among other systems. So I'm the sponsor of this project. The intent of this project is really to replace the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems on courses B, C, and D down at the airport. So yeah, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, abbreviated is HVAC, supply filtered and heater-cooled air to satisfy ventilation requirements, provide comfort heating, comfort cooling, and makeup air for kitchen exhaust and restroom exhaust. We're looking to replace the HVAC systems on Concourse B, C, and D, as these systems are old, with obsolete components in some locations that cannot be repaired or replaced, and they lack redundancy. As a result, failures of components such as motors, fans, heating coils, cooling coils can often quickly impact passengers and tenants within these spaces. As these systems are replaced, we also intend to increase airflow capacity for programs such as airport dining and retail tenants, as well as restroom upgrades. We're looking to add active smoke control, which provides operational benefits to the airport. And we're also looking to build in redundancy to minimize single points of failure. Next slide. So this slide shows some photos of some air handling units, many of which are over 30 years old. Typical failures can include inoperable motors, fans, dampers, or cooling or heating coils within air handling units, leaks and corrosion in hydronic piping, inoperable dampers and terminal units used to modulate temperature within each space. These issues can, can create uncomfortable space temperatures, poor indoor air quality, and affect building pressurization. In worst case scenarios, spaces can be unsafe to occupy in summer if indoor space temperatures get too warm and people aren't feeling well, or likewise in winter we can have prolonged periods with complaints and discomfort during cold temperatures, especially near our passenger loading bridge doors, which are often open. Our aviation maintenance really does a great job keeping these systems operating, but repair of these systems on B, C, and D are particularly difficult. That difficulty can prolong the duration of outages, during which passengers and tenants are affected. Corrective repairs can include hoisting big heavy motors across concourse roof and up down through several penthouses to reach a failed air handling unit. Or in some locations, we've got some inoperable heating coils where there's insufficient space to pull the coil without dismantling an adjacent exterior wall. So we're looking into temporary fixes for all of these kind of cases. All of this is to say this is a critically important project for continued reliable operations and occupancy of these three concourses. Delay of this project will impact the passenger experience and tenant operations and also limit future growth in programs such as our airport dining and retail. Next slide. So scope, we've got a lot of words on this slide here, but essentially as we go through and replace our HVAC systems, there's other systems that need to get upgraded and replaced as well. Our HVAC scope includes replacing air handling units as well as upstream piping and pumps and downstream ductwork and terminal units. Other major work includes structural upgrades to support new penthouses and rooftop equipment, emergency power provisions, ceiling replacements, lighting renewal, and fire sprinkler work. All of this will require complex phasing to minimize disruption to passengers, aircraft loading bridges, and tenant operations. The photo there in the slide on the left is our airline realignment project that's currently under construction now. And they're addressing two of the air handling units on Concourse B, which includes building a new penthouse, as well as related air handling unit work and ductwork, HVAC work. So, next slide. Project location, so graphically, Concourse B, C, and D are the blue, yellow, and red areas. This work addresses about 19 air handling units and their related systems in these spaces. A concourse in green is slightly newer and not within SHRP scope here. And then across the airport, the Seattle SEA Airport campus, we have many other HVAC systems and air handling units where our group, Facility and Infrastructure, is working on an asset management plan for those as well. Next slide. So yeah, energy reduction or energy conservation is a really great opportunity for sustainability and energy conservation. So we're looking for opportunities for heat recovery, updated building automation system controls, efficient LED lighting, and updated lighting controls. Replacement of some of these old and obsolete systems supports compliance with the state of Washington's Clean Buildings Performance Standards, which requires implementation of energy conservation measures to reduce energy usage in large buildings, such as SEA's concourses. And the current basis of design for CHIRP incorporates using a heating hot water temperature that is lower than we normally do in anticipation for potential modernization of SEA's central mechanical plant steam system. And then next slide, and we'll turn it over to Paula to talk budget and project schedule.
Hello, my name is Paula Munter, and I'm a project manager for this particular project. What I'd like to share is this is our project schedule. Currently, we are working on the 30% design, expected to complete next year this time. And what we're trying to ask for here at this time is the GCCM approval to advertise, and also for the monies for the GCCM as well as pre-construction costs. With the complexity of the systems, we feel like the GCCM will provide very important work to validate what's in our areas, and maybe can work with our operations in making sure that we have the smoothest schedule, not to interrupt operations, but when we have to. So we really want to get them in so that we can minimize disruptions. We will be coming back to commission, and just wanted to let you guys know. So we're going to be asking for full design authorization next year, and we about a couple of years after that we'll be asking for construction authorization. Next slide. So right now, as far as the cone of certainty, we're at approximately 15% complete at this time. What we have and what we've asked our estimators to work on is basically a Word document. So we don't have drawings yet. That'll come with the 30% design. And so you can see there's a wide gap of variance there. Next slide. So our budget is a range. The $255 million has been on from the original request. Our previous authorization was for design, and that was $7,250,000. Our current request is for $11 million, which will cover soft costs, GCCM, as well as pre-construction costs, for a total authorization of $18,250,000. Next slide. So we do, like anything else, we all have potential project risks. One of the things that we're hoping to minimize is conflicts with any existing conditions. We're hoping to have early collaboration with this GCCM, can work with our design team and make sure that we have clear lines of sight and we don't slow the project down while it's being constructed. So we'd like to recognize any opportunities there as soon as possible. And like I was saying, I want them also to look at the schedule and work through planning such that we minimize operation impacts and working with the airlines there because we will have interruptions. There's just no way to keep from it. But we know that we can work on some things, economy of scale, some different approaches that possibly will reduce this quite a bit. And a couple other items, there's, like everybody addresses, is the tariffs. In the Selin report, it did show that a lot of the components we're looking at will be impacted by tariffs. So I think getting a GCCM on board and start looking at those assets, we can try to prevent the impact as much as possible by recognizing which assets we need that are long lead and that might have a potential impact. Next slide. So just to summarize, we're asking for your authorization for the executive director to advertise and execute a general contractor, construction manager, construction contract, and authorize pre-construction services. And the amount under this request is $11 million for a total of $18,250,000. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paula. Okay, anything else from you all in your presentation? All right, that means it's our turn to ask some questions. Commissioners, we'll begin with Commissioner Cho.
Thank you for the presentation. I like a good air conditioning system, so I do appreciate this. It's funny because growing up, air conditioning wasn't really a thing in Seattle, and now I feel like it's standard. But anyways, I'm looking at the budget here, and it looks like the original estimate for this project was $255 million. Now it looks like there's a range from $255 to $450 million, which means it could escalate up to 80% of its original estimate. So I'm curious, notwithstanding the tariff issue that you just mentioned, what other unknowns are we trying to account for here? Because that's a pretty big spectrum as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, maybe I can speak to that a little, and Paul can fill in. But yeah, initially that $255 million estimate, that was really with very little sort of research, no design, no sort of field investigations. And when we started getting into this project, once the status 2 was approved, we actually did field visits to all the air handlers, and we've identified a lot more issues than previously anticipated, as well as costs. We actually have a model now. You saw a slide earlier with the airline realignment. So I've seen what some of the costs are coming in with the airline realignment, and based on those costs, we're anticipating a higher cost than the 255, upwards of $450 million. But
And I'm seeing here, I'm looking at the memo here. It looks like the smoke system is for Concourse B, C, and D, but is the overall HVAC system for the main for entire main concourse? I'm trying to get a sense of which geographic region.
Yeah, no. And Joe can speak to this in more detail, but the projects that we're focused on is just concourses B, C, and D.
Got it.
A has its own air handlers. Main terminal has its own air handlers, as well as do the satellites.
Okay. And then lastly, this is actually for Karen and the exec team. I think the team brought up a really good point about cost escalation as a result of tariffs. And I do think that we should be tracking how much more we are paying out of pocket as a result of these tariffs. And so to the extent that it is possible, not just for this project, but for all our capital projects going forward, we should start tracking how much would this have costed if the 30, 40, 50% tariffs were not in place. How much is this costing the taxpayers and our travelers? I remember when we were building the IAF in the first Trump administration, and we were told that steel was an issue, and that contributed to our delays. And so another question for us is, to what extent is the disruption in the supply chain affecting our ability to get what we need in time to do these projects? And I think there's going to be some real ramifications around our capital projects, right? Not just our tenants, but our projects, and we can provide the public some information around how much money we've lost or spent, giving an example of how we paid the tariffs, not China, right? And how much of a delay these projects might have had as a result of these policies. So if you could take that back, Karen, to Steve and the team, I'd like for us to start tracking that starting in January, quite frankly.
Noted, Commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner Fellman.
Thanks very much for the presentation, and obviously these things never are cheap, but obviously very necessary. One of the asides, if you're telling us something that expensive, you might not want to refer to penthouses without telling us what that means. Obviously you're putting in equipment at the top floor, I assume, is what that means, right?
Yes. So the air handlers will be installed on the roof. The penthouse is the enclosure for those air handlers.
I think the public would like to know that we're not building penthouses on our buildings, right?
Right.
Joking aside, with the cone of uncertainty, obviously, or cone of certainty, cone of uncertainty too, if you read it backwards, right? For a project that is subject to the Sustainable Evaluation Framework, I was requesting that we put a little green leaf at 30% that would distinguish this cone from other cones. And I'm glad to hear that you are doing that, because HVAC is such a low-hanging fruit to get those improvements. And what it would be really good, sometimes we don't get with the CEF process, is sort of like the alternatives, like how much more greenhouse gas emission reductions could we get for how much, right? And so I would assume that you're going to give us the total, what the system is, and that what it would mean just to comply versus what more could you do. And to Commissioner Cho's point, wherever, we're dealing much with air conditioning at a personal place, but obviously in large buildings I recently installed a heat pump, and it's like the best thing I ever did. But I didn't know whether heat pumps were looking at as one of those technologies that might be able to achieve our goals, or at least portions of which, obviously with low carbon and high efficiency. Is that part of the evaluation?
Yeah, maybe I could say a little and then hand off to Joe. So we will be back at this time next year. We will have a 30% design. We will have a much better budget and schedule. We will also have some of those details you're looking for as far as conservation and different conservation alternatives. As far as the heat pumps, I'll let Joe address that.
Yeah. So heat pumps, within CHIRP, we are still looking at using a centralized district energy system. There are many, many advantages of that versus standalone equipment such as heat pumps at individual buildings. And so the design right now continues to use chilled water and heating hot water. We are planning to design it for a lower temperature hot water in anticipation for potentially converting our central mechanical plant to use heat pumps. And that would provide a lot of benefits, not just energy efficiency wise, but really maintainability, safety, all this kind of stuff by centralizing our heating and cooling generation. So the scope right now is not looking at heat pumps within individual concourses because there's really a lot of advantages, and really many universities and campus and airports across the airport or across the country use centralized district energy. And so at this point, we're not looking at heat pumps.
But there's some future proofing that you would as long as you could get enough juice into the central unit, you might be able to. It sounds like it would be, of course, an efficiency. And just the last thing, you might have remembered there was this little thing called a pandemic, and air quality was a huge issue, right? And I understand that the smaller the filter, the more power you need to push the air through it, but there was also some like electrostatic processes by which you can zap the air rather than restrict its flow. I'm just wondering, how much is the COVID type considerations part of your evaluation?
Right now the airport uses a pretty good filter in their air handling unit, so MERV 14, which is a little bit over and above what a typical office building would use. And so we are set up pretty well as far as filtering out the outside air ventilation that comes in and providing good air quality to the indoor passengers. And so that's what our standard is right now. I know there are some other technologies out there that I think in some cases, are evaluating how feasible they are, whether they make sense or not. But at this point, our standard is a MERV 14 filter, which is a good filter.
And so, will you be looking at bringing to our attention some potential enhancements to that? When I first got here, we didn't have touchless sinks, and I remember my wife telling me, flying in and out, she was like, "You're making me touch the faucets." And that was before the pandemic. We only wish, right, that we were not a potential transmission source. I'm just wondering, is this going to be part of your evaluation? Is something better than MERV 14 possible without causing other grief?
Yes, yeah, I would say, we're really looking, with this, there's a lot of complexity in these projects. We're really looking for, the designers and the GCCM to help, understand what are the best products out there. And we are looking at, I think,
it's just scoping. I mean, again, when you're putting things through the filters. All right. Well, thank you very much. Look forward to hearing back.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Calkins.
When I was reading through this last week, one of the questions that came up for me is, how does this project integrate with our physical plant? And are we developing this such a way that we can maintain some of the flexibility around some of the decision making about future upgrades to the physical plant itself?
Yeah. And so our current central plant uses steam and chilled water that gets distributed out to air handling units across the airport. This project, we're looking to continue using hydronic heating, hot water, and chilled water from a central source, which, again, there's a lot of benefits of central district energy versus standalone equipment all over the place. We are planning to design these systems so they can integrate into the current system, but also a potential future system if we were to modernize our central plant with something else, such as big industrial heat pumps. So we are looking to size, temperature-wise and pressure-wise, that a future connection can be made to a modernized central plant.
Great answer. Thanks. That's exactly what I wanted to know.
Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, the motion has been made and seconded. I think.
Not yet.
Commissioners, I don't think I have asked for a motion on this yet. So
moved.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Cho.
Second.
And seconded by Commissioner Fellman. And when your Clerk Hart will call the roll, and you will say aye or nay when your name's called.
Thank you. Beginning with Commissioner Calkins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Toe.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Fellman.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hasagawa.
Aye.
Thank you. I couldn't remember either. I had to look. 5 ayes and 0 nays for this item.
Thank you very much, and it carries unanimously. Thank you for your presentation today. Okie dokie. Clerk Hart, will you please read the next item into the record, and Deputy Executive Director Goon will introduce it.
Thank you. This is Agenda Item 11A, the 2026 Budget Development Briefing.
Commissioners, as noted in my opening remarks, as we look ahead to 2026, we're entering a period that demands both discipline and focus. Economic signals are clear. We should expect slower growth, reduced federal support, and continued inflationary pressures, particularly from tariffs. At this time, our lines of business are maturing and our revenue growth is beginning to soften. In response, we are pursuing a more conservative approach to budgeting that aligns with our long-term financial capacity. Today's presentation of the budget development process is one of the series of budget briefings that take place before formal commission reviews and approvals that will occur later this fall. With me today is Elizabeth Morrison, our interim CFO and Director of Corporate Finance, and Michael Ton, Director of Corporate Budget, Finance, and Budget. That seems redundant, Michael. I'm sorry, I'll work on that one. We have a short presentation, which will kind of run through. Much of this information was presented in the ED message that was sent out last week on Wednesday. I believe I'm taking a few slides and then handing over to Michael. So
Perfect. Thank you.
if we can go to our overview, please. Just a brief overview of what the presentation will be for today. Next slide, please. As with everything, we start with our environmental scan, which of course needs going without saying that the challenge right now to planning and budgeting is huge. We have unprecedented political and economic uncertainty. We have federal trade, immigration, and policy actions that are occurring that are keeping us a little bit off balance, like everyone else. We're also seeing a moderation of post-pandemic growth and multiple years of rapid expense growth, partially due to responding to the pandemic. We are also facing federal funding reductions that we have discussed with you, and as well as reduced operating revenues, and most recently cuts in federal climate change programs and fundings that will impact our operations and our plans. We, as Commissioner Cho and as Paula mentioned, the impact of tariffs is uncertain on our operating and capital and environmental costs, and that's something we'll have to be tracking and reporting back. And finally, rapid advances in technology regarding artificial intelligence and the constant, I won't say growing, I'll say constant cyber threats that we and other organizations such as us are experiencing. Next slide, please. The executive director has crafted a plan for how we guide our steps going forward. He has a vision of the port of the future that he has shared with you that is built around these 5 pillars of being an effective and efficient port, a catalyst for growth, a hub for a zero-emission economy, built to be resilient, and shared vision, shared success. Next slide, please. So in consultation with our interim chief financial officer and the budget staff, we built these budget guiding principles, which was largely to take an extremely conservative approach to budgeting for 2026 due to all of the environmental scan items that I mentioned before. We're going to be safeguarding the efficient operation of our critical business functions and adhering to the missions that we've laid out for those critical business functions. We're going to keep assessing geopolitical, political, and regulatory risks on an ongoing basis and identify, protect, and enhance our operating and capital investments. We're going to focus on asset preservation, long-term growth, and revenue production in all of our lines of business. And we're also going to focus on retaining key talent and developing staff through trainings and upskilling. The key to all of these guiding principles is to prioritize the implementation of current programs and initiatives, which means keeping new initiatives at bay and perhaps putting them in a hold for when our conditions have changed. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our budget strategies is to develop a very conservative budget for 2026, create contingency and scenario planning in case revenue changes, but also to address revenue risks that might come that we haven't yet experienced. We're going to focus on increasing net operating income by limiting our expense growth, which, as noted in my comments, a large share of our expense growth is involving FTEs and the expenses around FTEs. So we're going to limit adding new FTEs, and we're going to also limit our outside services use, being more mindful of the increases that outside services bring to our budget. We're going to continue to assess the affordability of our capital plans, considering increased inflation, tariffs, and revenue risks. We're going to focus on strengthening our sustainability, adaptability, and resiliency in our spending and business plan. And as always, we're going to be continuing to monitor early warning indicators that may trigger budget recalibration and take steps as necessary. Next slide, please. So, Michael, I think this is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Kuhn. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Here's the 2026 budget approach that we are going to take. So the key one is really supporting a culture of resilience, budgeting with a multi-year approach. And we're also supporting staff and provide reasonable increase in the payroll and also the benefits as well. We have no plan at this point, to reduce the current workforce, as Deputy Executive Director mentioned a little bit earlier, and in our ED weekly message last week. The key here is also limit new FTE growth, which we plan to review all the vacant position vacanted more than a year, and also consider repurpose some of the vacant positions and try to reduce the new FTE requests. Also limit the long payroll role as well. And those are the key things on the outside services. We're going to review carefully a number of new, even existing new outside services. Also, in terms of new FTE and new initiative, we will review it very vigorously and try to limit those to keep the budget target as close as possible. Next slide, please. So here's the overall 2026 budget approach. So we start with the environmental assessments, including some of the environmental scan that you saw a little bit earlier. And then we are in the process of preparing the budget right now with the budget guideline published last week, and the budget direction from the Executive Director last week. So we'll work on that in July, and then also early August. And then start from mid-August, we will have the department budget review, division budget review, and executive budget review. And then before present you the number, the proposed number or preliminary number in August, and then also in September, and before the approval of the introduction of the budget and approval of the budget in November. And obviously, we will also publish the budget in brief, also and the preliminary budget document as required by law in October. So, and then the final step is really to prepare the statutory budget and file with King County by the end of November, and then finalize the final budget document in early December. Next slide, please. And here's the detail of the budget calendar. I won't go into all the detail. You already have the budget retreat in June, and then also right now we have the budget development briefing, and then the next step is, as I mentioned, we'll have the prepare the department budget target and have those review in September for the division review, and then before present you the proposed number for central services. And we also try to provide a port-wide up to you in September as well. Next slide, please. And then here's a little bit more detail on the some of the key days for the division budget review, which will be on October 14, and then also we will present the draft plan of finance to you and tax levy discussion in October before the introduction of the budget and the adoption of the budget in November. Thus conclude our key budget development briefing. would love to hear if you have any questions.
That was very concise. Thank you very much. All right, commissioners, now's your moment to ask questions or make comments. Beginning with Commissioner Fellman.
Thank you. Clearly, we are in tight and uncertain times, so there's nothing surprising here, and fully support your approach. I see a potential contradiction in goals, where and one that will, of course, need balancing. To be one of the guiding principles to be both resilient and multi-year in your mindset. So, so while you don't want to spend a lot now, you want to think in the future. So, like I think of the scenario where, like we just replaced the water system in my place, and but the real expensive part was digging the hole for the pipe. And then, but while you had the hole open, we laid in the cable for some future upgrade, fiber optic or whatever. You know, so you didn't really want to spend the money for the fiber optic right now, but while you had the hole open, you jumped on the opportunity. So I'm always thinking about like piggybacking on projects that are already committed to going. What kind of cost savings could we do, even though we don't want to spend them right now, but it would cost us much more later. So how do you evaluate? How do you balance that kind of dual challenges?
Well, that is part of the capital planning process, and I know that our capital development teams look at what resilience can be built into projects as they're evaluating different alternatives. And you'll often see projects that, and you know, I'll use the rental car facility for example. We looked at one scenario where the electrical would just be kind of laid in the cement. And ultimately that didn't make sense because you ever have a problem, you're jackhammering the cement, right? And so ultimately we had conduit laid so that if there's a problem with the electrical, you just make a small opening, you pull out the bad stuff and put in the good stuff. So that is definitely a part of the capital planning process.
The other thing I would add is also, for example, some of the deferred maintenance. So we try to balance those, you know, if we need to spend some money, you know, next year or next couple of years and prevent some bigger issue down the road, and, you know, those will be part of the considerations.
Anyway, I just see that you don't want to be pound foolish, right, for the ultimate goals that we have agreed on.
Yeah, and I'll also note that the airport is working on a life cycle cost analysis, and that's one of the things you look in. You know, maybe a bigger investment up front can reduce maintenance and operating costs over the life of the facility, and so that is definitely part of the thinking.
Yeah, I just see those kind of questions being particularly challenging these times.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Calkins.
So I think I just want to add a couple of comments about some of the external, it's called the atmospherics, that you all are dealing with as you're trying to figure out, as you're trying to be fortune tellers and figure out what's happening a year from now. And I just want to point out two federal impacts. First, around tariffs. First and foremost, just creating an atmosphere of uncertainty that makes it much harder for planners to do this kind of work generally. But very concretely, what it means for the Port of Seattle is reduced business revenues from cargo on our maritime side, cruise on the maritime side, because of reduction in tourism generally from overseas in particular. We've already seen that this season, a reduction, a little nominal, but because a lot of people plan their trips further out than April, but likely next year greater impact if this approach to the world, which is, you know, aggressive and antagonistic, continues. And of course at SEA as well from tourism. So trying to factor how much that impacts us has got to be a challenge for you all. It also results in higher capital costs. We've talked about we are going to pay the tariffs on steel and aluminum and all the other component parts that are built somewhere else or components that are then assembled here, but the components are tariff. It results in a weaker dollar too, as we've seen throughout. The dollar is off to the worst start in 30 some years, and on the one hand, that might be good for exports. On the other hand, it's probably bad for imports. So also puts a drag on our cargo volumes, and discourages a little bit international tourism because it's costlier to travel here. And then just the general soft power impacts that it means for us when we go and try to represent the Port of Seattle overseas. First and foremost, we're seen as people from the United States. And if the federal posture of the United States is antagonistic towards, just yesterday, South Korea and Japan, two incredibly important allies for us, trade partners for us, and we have to fight through that federal antagonism and say, yes, and we are still open for business. We still believe in this relationship. So that's tariffs. The other one is this big bill that I think from the budgeting standpoint, and it may not be next year, it might be, but it may be primarily further down the road, is the question of borrowing costs. If we're going to go another 10% higher on our total debt as the United States and reduce our ability to repay that debt, what does it mean for the federal funds rate? Even if the federal funds rate is somewhat malleable, the markets can decide that they're still going to exact a cost to lend money to, municipal governments and everyone else, student loan borrowers and homeowners and others. So we'll likely see that there will be additional costs to do everything because in order to borrow money to do it, you'll have to pay higher rates. Loss of federal funding. We have built projects around grant opportunities that we're just going to have to jettison at this point, or significantly delay, or hope that some other source of funding comes up. And that's just a direct result of cuts made by the bill and also just by executive action. The one silver lining that we've been talking about a little bit is that there is a fair bit of money in there for shipbuilding and commensurate activities, including some maritime workforce development. So I do want to leave that one little morsel of hope that maybe we could, what has been for us, a key value for a long time, there is some interest now at the federal level to support that. And so I do hope we can at least get that one little bit of silver lining out of it. So thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cho.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Michael, for the presentation. As I think about what headwinds we're going to be facing, I really like that you're taking what you've characterized as a multi-year mindset. And I think we oftentimes go through budgeting with the next fiscal year in mind, and we're not always privy to, or at least taking into consideration, what we have 2, 3, 4 years down the line. And so with that said, and I think I've asked for this before, is you both know that, our CapEx is pretty lumpy. I remember when I first came here and the CapEx graph over the next 5 years, the first 5 years that I was here was a pretty long tail because we had the IAF going on and we had a lot of other capital projects that took up a lot of capital, and now it's kind of becoming a long tail to the left again. And so it would be really helpful for us to see that lumpiness on a timeline. In particular, I think I received a briefing in the Aviation Committee recently that was very concerning in terms of how much capital projects that we have in the pipeline and the cost, factoring the cost escalation. The conclusion being like we're going to have to cut some of these projects, right? I mean, that's just the reality we're facing given the current circumstance. And so I would love to see a timeline that's like maybe 5 to 8 years out that shows the lumpiness of the CapEx. I hope you understand what I mean by lumpiness, but super technical term. And then secondly, I think it would also be helpful, and I'm just trying to provide a framework here that might help us, is categorizing these projects by the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, and the luxury items, right? The must-haves being like the HVAC project that we just approved, where it's something that we fundamentally need for the airport or the port to function. The nice-to-haves that, would improve our airport, but we don't really, it's not essential for the airport to operate. And then in my mind, a luxury is something that like makes us look and feel good, but really isn't something we need, right? And so that would be really helpful. So those three categories and a timeline. Lastly, I noticed that one of your points here was to focus on increasing net operating income. I would really love to get an idea of where that increase in revenue you think can come from. And I'm not going to ask you to predict the future necessarily, but one thing that comes to mind right off the top of my head is the duty-free business that we're expanding over the next few years. I hear duty-free is a cash cow. Maybe I shouldn't use that term, but that it's very highly profitable. Increased revenue from Sea Concourse expansion with the 13 new tenants, right? And so for us to get a sense of like where is our net operating income going to increase, right? Are we going to increase parking rates for the next couple of years? Constituents will hate that, but what does that look like, et cetera, right? And so just getting a sense of where that increased net operating income will come from, understanding that the increased net operating income could also come from cuts, right? And so I don't think I expect a detailed explanation of where we're cutting necessarily, but I do hope to kind of get a sense of where our revenue is expected to go up, including more cruise calls next year, et cetera. And so I think those three things would be very helpful, and I would really appreciate if we can get that before we pass the budget at the end of in the fall.
We can certainly have that in the operating division presentations. They present a 5-year forecast of their operations as well as the next yearly budget. And that's precisely why we're trying to have a multi-year mindset. And the net income, as you note, at least in the near term, that's going to come from managing the expense growth. Over the long term, there are some opportunities. Duty-free, we do have a higher average spend per passenger with duty-free than with others, but a lot of that duty-free will be coming online down the road, and not immediately. And we're looking, some of the things that we're looking at to gauge the economy is we're seeing some little bit of weakness in our ability to add new fees or to increase fees. So there may be some softness for a while before we can start increasing parking rates and other fees, but we're definitely monitoring that, and we can present more detail when the operating divisions come back.
That's great. Thank you so much for that.
Commissioner Mohammed.
No questions at this time. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much. Just briefly from me, my colleagues, and you demonstrated sort of the landscape within which we're operating and all the challenges. As we're navigating this through the Northwest Seaport Alliance as well, we've introduced the metric not just as revenues through our gateway, and via all our contracts and agreements, but also as introducing the metric as the number of jobs in the North Harbor. And I think that that's so important in the context of this conversation, our own budget as well, is because what Deputy Executive Director Goon led with is that we are not cutting any jobs. So that's just critically important at this juncture as we're looking for efficiencies. That does not mean with that sense of economic security that our neighbors are depending on through their employment. And that said, where are the other potential efficiencies on a programmatic level? Wondering if in a subsequent presentation, departments will be also just demonstrating, that they are delivering on what they're intending to do. And then similar to Commissioner Cho, I'm also wondering where the possibilities for new revenues could be. We have FIFA next year with an additional 750,000 people coming to our region. I wonder if there's been any sort of calculation of what that actually is projected to produce for us at the Port of Seattle, whether it's the number of folks going through the airport, spending, and new programs that we have. What does that mean for us? And then I'm also wondering if there's an opportunity in the context of FIFA specifically for us to think creatively in terms of service delivery or opportunity as a public entity to the traveling members of the public who are coming here for this purpose. Do we do tours, boat tours, something like that? Niche interests that only we would be able to service and provide as another potential revenue stream. So I just want folks to get excited and think creatively about this adrenaline shot that we're going to be absorbing and how we can maximize on that for our own potential. Great. So seeing no further questions or comments from my colleagues, thank you so very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
We always appreciate your expertise. And that actually brings us to the end of our business agenda. To my colleagues, I'm wondering, do you have any closing comments at this time, or motions or referrals to committee? Yes, Commissioner Fallon.
Just want to add to the gloom and doom of the perspective. A lot of the federal challenges are going to be passed on to the state, and the state's going to absorb a tremendous amount of these responsibilities that are only going to further compromise our ability to advance. And we were talking about, it's more important than ever for local initiatives, and more. I see the port as being still a very important role, but even the locals are getting significant challenges put on us. So it's in further support of your conservative budgeting. I think that's clearly the case. I also just saw a text that the Supreme Court just upheld Trump's ability to fire federal workers, and it's one thing to have ability to do a project, like whether it be Superfund or whatever, but if you don't have folks to process your permits, there's a real challenge there, and I think we're going to run into quite a bit of that. FAA, SAMP, whatever, is all going to require somebody to be able to process those things that we even have the dry powder to do. And then finally, I think there needs to be some clarification with IBEW, the role of the commission when, in fact, we have a tenant who does the hiring. And, their business director was talking about it's on us for the leadership. I always we have the bully pulpit, we have all sorts of tools, but it's ultimately Louis' job and decision-making, right? So I just think it's important that I don't want to pass the buck, but there are, being a landlord port, certain limitations.
Thank you, Commissioner Fallon. I'm looking online. Commissioner Mohammed, do you have any closing comments or referrals to committee?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Calkins.
I just wanted to welcome Keon and Aaron, who are sitting in the back. There are summer interns for the commission office, which I think that puts them at the highest level of Port of Seattle intern. I don't know how you got this, but you guys got the best intern spot. No, but it was a pleasure to get to have lunch with you guys today. Really nice to meet you, and looking forward to working with you all summer.
At least the highest salary.
All right, and I just want to note for the record that we have canceled the July 22nd meeting. Our next meeting will be in August on the 12th. Thank you all so very much. Seeing no further business before us and no additional comments, the meeting is now adjourned.